like your credits went through just fine. Fantastic. Now, where was I? Right. You were asking about the mercs. Nox Solaris. Well, friend, you have come to the right man. Been their humble street pharmacist since just after they got together. Some of my best clients, by the way. But more importantly for you, they're the best there is at what they do. I mean, what a group. Leader's a bona fide Atlantean voyager. That's right, Atlantean. Then there's the spooky techno-wizard cyborg genius. Finally, a mystic smithy giant. 12 feet tall if he's an inch. Not to mention the mountain of a spirit bear he calls brother. Now, I can get word to him if you're looking to hire Mister. No problem there. Just let old Blitz give you 2 tiny tips for your health. First, don't get on their bad side. Make sure you have payment ready to go, and don't try to pull any bullshit, or you're worse than dead. And second, don't piss off that fucking bear.
Finally, there you are. The Nexus had just enough power to fuel one more try. The last step. The Megaverse knows my Atlantean people as heroes, but a shadow of chaos has taken root in me. They try to bind it. They try to bury it. But when I finally called out to it, to you, from across the void, you answered, I am ready.
Welcome, traveler, to the Black Shore.
Your shame reaches a mother's heart, even beyond the veil, little brother. My sister saw and mocked her as the darkness closed in. She giggled and synthesized honey-sweet tones while leaning close to softly breathe her venom into my ear. And so, with judgment passed and tourniquets in place, my family commanded the automated surgical bots to neatly slice both arms and legs from my torso. The harsh lights overhead swam and dimmed before my eyes, as flesh and bone were replaced with cold, unfeeling metal to cripple my connection to the arcane. Now, my family lies far behind my path, and I follow a new teacher as she whispers from the darkness ahead. Her voice haunts me with promises of forbidden knowledge and wonders precious beyond compare. Each step brings me closer to my prize, closer to my revenge, closer to her.
Nah, brother. My eyes read the stars as keenly as your ancient ones do. It is almost here. E is almost home. And with him comes the end for our proud and noble Vana countryman, along with the rest of the souls on this world. As his foul shadow falls upon us all, we alone stand for those who cannot. Ah. So rise, son of Aku. Our ancestors smile upon us this night as they call us home. Come and let us earn our place amongst the stars above.
Okay, so we're back with our riftsrpg Prism of KeterFall campaign. We are here with Ren, Akama, and Ymir. We have just arrived at the Temple of the Saints. They have ascended the staircase and reached the chapel proper. They are now standing before a magnificent structure that seems to be inundated with some kind of holy power, some kind of, whether it's real or imagined, some kind of manifested religious zeal seems to be permeating the air. And all of the characters can feel a palpable energy crackling through them in this place of power. Each of the heroes emerges from the stairs, looking out upon this image, a bit awestruck, because naturally occurring scenes like this are very rare, and none of our heroes have witnessed one before. At their side, their companions, Harmony, the Huntress, and Pilgrim, are currently clad in kind of workman's overalls, almost like an environmental work suit. Colored mostly yellow with various tools and equipment strapped about, each with a backpack loaded with some gear. They appear to be unfazed by this scene before them, and they simply continue walking forward, preparing to enter the front of the chapel through the main doors. You also see that several of the other pilgrims that seem to be visiting this area have congregated here in the courtyard. They're looking around. Many are taking what appear to be pictures with various different technological level cameras. Some are mere ancient relics that seem to take Polaroid style pictures, while others openly seem to be taking pictures with their cybernetic eyes and other high-tech devices. Although there aren't more than probably 24 pilgrims and tourists congregated around this area, the numbers do seem to be thinning out as people start walking to different structures located around this huge mesa that the temple sits upon. There are several other structures, but as Pilgrim and Harmony begin moving inside, you guys get the idea that it may be a good it may be good procedure to follow them, as they seem to be uh, kind of familiar with this environment, and you know that they're on their way to try and rendezvous with the Grand Master. Um, However, if you guys would like to explore a little bit, whatever you'd like to do, you're more than welcome to. This is a large courtyard, several hundred feet across. There are small buildings kind of uh, smattered all over the place. Most look utilitarian in nature, or they look to be, small temples of worship, very simple structures, not housing much besides kind of open, serene areas with a small, roof or gazebo to shelter one from the elements as one pays respects to the gods. Um, you do also notice that each of you is able to readily uh, pick up on various different religious symbols uh, scattered across this property. You see that there are many that appear to be in reverence to the Christian God, but there are several other different denominations represented as well openly through the architecture itself. So obviously, in welcoming and support of a polytheistic view upon life. So in this way, you're definitely, you see that this isn't just a house of God per se. Um, okay, with that, I want to open it up to you guys. What would you like to do?
I'm just going to be walking around and looking and just trying to see if anything stands out specifically to me, as far as like kind of my interests and stuff like that. I mean, is everything here pretty much ancient and non? Um, was there any type of technology, even like old technology, that might be infused with magic or anything like that?
As you start looking around and searching, you see that high above your head, this airship seems to be floating about. It doesn't really seem to be militaristic in nature or even really defensive. You notice that there are many pilgrims loaded up along its surface, and seemingly through the porthole windows identified within its cabin. And all of these pilgrims seem to be just enjoying the sights and the open vista. And you would guess that this is some kind of service that's offered from this location, um, as a way to quickly traverse, the mountainside without having to use the stairs. It does look like it's in pretty poor disrepair, and with your sense of technology and your mastery of it, you're able to immediately identify this is akin to an old, nearly worn out fishing vessel being used to now pull banana boats at a tourist location on the beach, where this thing is really about to kind of fall out of the sky. You know, not literally, but it's definitely seen better days, and it's definitely not going to defend this place. So your guess is you really couldn't learn anything or get any kind of real, technology boon out of this place unless they're hiding it somewhere below ground. You know what I mean? Um, you do see that this thing seems to be making broad circles overhead as it flies, and you would guess that this is, instead of something meant to just transport people up and back, it's definitely meant to give a kind of like tourist ride for the area. It does show that you guys, if you wanted a different way off of the mountainside, you could probably book passage on this thing. Um, okay.
So, does this place have a very kind of I mean, I guess it's a little bit less ominous and more kind of like friendly, touristy kind of vibe to it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
In fact, none of you are really picking up on any kind of really menacing energy in the current area.
Not
right
even
now.
menacing. I guess I meant more like just like sacred and kind of isolated and having like that kind of like I'm in a place of worship and power as opposed to like, oh, I'm kind of not Disneyland, but more I don't know, like when you go to like a national park and everyone's staring at a monument or like, an old burial
Yes.
ground or so it's kind of that.
And all of the tourists seem to have a lot of reverence. You don't see anybody running around acting a fool. Everybody
Okay.
is
But
paying
it is still touristy, but
respects.
it's not goofy, yeah. Okay.
Correct. And let's see. You
It's like
guys
visiting the Vatican or something like that. Basically,
exactly.
is what you're. Okay, cool,
Only
cool.
I would add though that this place, you guys can all physically and spiritually feel the power. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
just a
yeah.
sense of belief. It's
Right, right,
palpable.
right.
Um, okay,
Absolutely. I'm just. You mentioned touristy, but still revered or in reverence, and I just thought of tourists walking around the Vatican. So thank you.
absolutely. All right. So, Akama, is there anything you're wanting to do?
I want to turn to uh Harmony and ask her, so what is the reason for us being here? Is there anything that we're looking for?
Um, all right. She pauses at the front of the door and turns back to you and nods, and she says, the Grand Master has traveled here to solicit help from one of the denizens below. We were instructed to rendezvous with him as he would have a task for us to complete this transaction. Um, she kind of leans in a little bit to your group and she says in a lower voice, she says, as I stated, um, any means that you may have to make an impression upon groups you may wish to join is time and energy well spent. She says, perhaps if you accompany us, there may be a role for you to play, and esteem and renown for you to earn for yourselves as well. And she kind of cocks an eyebrow at you and does the same kind of motion with her head. Uh, and you guys definitely get the impression that she's trying to give you tips and helpful advice rather than trying to manipulate you.
Well, clearly, with given Wotek's signals from her earlier on in our adventure, that would make sense.
Yeah. Um, okay, so at this, you actually, as you're thinking about him, you look over at the Great Bear Wotek, and he seems to be looking up into the sky, and he seems as calm and relaxed as you've seen him this entire time, other than since you've come through the portal to this location, other than when he's been stoned out of his fucking mind. Other than that, he's been, on edge because in this environment, in this part of the world, danger is everywhere. But
Right.
you see him finally, his shoulders are low, his gait is comfortable and relaxed, and every noise he makes is one of just serenity rather than apprehension. So this does something to kind of put your mind at ease about this place as well.
Excellent.
All right, so
How many people are there here? Like
you're
that we can
looking
see
around. You're looking around and you're seeing several individuals, at least you would say 10 individuals walking the property in the area that you can see that have this same basic look. Middle-aged men that have some kind of strange glow about their eyes, wrapped in red, almost kind of religious cloak kind of wrappings. Very simple and plain mannerisms and tools available, all the gear that they're using. Some are sweeping, but they're all using old kind of bamboo and hay kind of brooms, and everybody is using a very simple procedure to get through the day's chores. And nobody is really relying on technology at all, and yet their eyes belie some extra human qualities about them. You would say that there's about
Oh, sorry.
you would say that there are about 10 of these kind of workers of the property just in view, but you would say that there's probably about 24 different pilgrims and tourists that are either walking around to some of the different prayer sites and utilizing those.
Do any of
or-
them stand out any differently, or they just kind of look around the mill? Like, I'm not seeing anyone like that just sends out like a sore thumb, or like.
No.
Basically, I'm looking around the crowd just to determine if there's someone that looks a little fishy. Maybe someone related to my family is basically what I'm trying to get at.
You look around and you don't see anything that draws your
See, like,
attention
a
whatsoever.
large Japanese man with Yakuza tattoos staring at me.
Nope.
Okay.
Ymir,
With-
look at that guy.
He's in a suit with his arms crossed, just staring at me, but he's got Mickey Mouse ears on. I'm like, oh, never mind, he's cool.
Right. All right. So Akama, is there anything you wanted to follow up that little bit with? I don't know. If
I
she
just
answered your-
nod to her and say okay, and just wait for the party to move forward.
Okay. All right. You guys all start heading in, I assume. Anybody?
I was waiting my turn. We had that interaction with Wotek, but I wanted to say that seeing Wotek relax puts Ymir in at ease, and that artisan side of himself comes out, and he scans the statues. You said they were various gods of various different face. Well, being a smith like he is, Ymir is admiring the craftsmanship of the statues of these gods, but he's specifically looking for. He sees various different gods as he scans around, but he is looking specifically for gods represented in what he calls the old world, or what the Vana called the before world, where Vidar's brothers like Thor and Loki and Tyr were all still alive before the great apocalypse of their realm and his ascension to Savarong the Divine. So he is scanning the statues looking for any sign of Old Norse iconography.
As you're looking around, you indeed see several, at least a half a dozen representations of different faiths that you're at least partially familiar with. But you see nothing here that seems to relate whatsoever to the mythology and the legend and history of your people as you know it. The closest thing is there's almost like some Greek-like statues that are, humanoid, but for the most part, that's like where the similarities would end. That's almost no connection whatsoever. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Most of the rest are just symbols and iconography like that, closer to pictographs.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there was like a specific statue maybe holding out a great hammer or had a winged helmet similar to Ymir, something that he would recognize as part of either the Vana faith or his people's faith of the old world before Vidar ascended.
No, you do not see anything like that.
Okay.
Well,
Given that, Ymir sort of just taps the great bear on his shoulders twice, realizing that he's calm, take a moment, rest, enjoy, brother. And then he starts to walk towards Akama and follow the rest of the group.
Okay. Wotek kind of grunts a couple of times lowly in acknowledgement, and he does a triple circle as he prepares to plop himself down on the warm cobblestone floor. And as he does so, there's kind of a audible thump as his belly hits the ground.
Okay.
And before you've even entered the doors, you hear him starting to practice his snoring that will come loud as thunder in a moment or two. All right, so the doors swing wide, and as you guys step in, you find that the cathedral appears much smaller from the inside than it did from the out. But you realize right away this is because this is more of a public chapel that's appropriate for visitors to use. There is actually a staircase off to the right that appears to go deeper into the bowels of this mountain, and you would guess that somewhere in the back it's mainly set up for like storage and whatever kinds of maybe food preparation or whatever it is that the mundane tasks of this place require. Strangely enough, you would have definitely guessed that this place was just a very powerful house of worship and pretty elaborate inside, but it's actually kind of utilitarian. It's strange. As Pilgrim looks over at your group, she puts a finger up to her lips very slyly as she's turning and acting like she's just looking at some of the interesting baubles and knickknacks all over the place. But each of you are able to perceive this. And as soon as she's finished doing so, you see from around a corner this individual steps into view. His gaze is cold and steely, and there's something about his manner that it's the first thing that has put any of you on edge since you've arrived here. Not necessarily because he seems dangerous, but there's a feeling when his gaze meets yours that there's a wisdom and an intellect behind this man's powerful will that lends him to be one of the people that has lived through many battles and learned much from them, and has probably learned how to use means other than violence to achieve his goals. You get a very raw sense of not necessarily power, but wisdom and, like I said, intellect. He looks over each of you in turn, and as he does so, he just nods very slightly and briefly, just as the minimum sign of respect to one's that maybe you don't know whether you should be showing great respect to or not. He definitely looks suspicious of your group, and when he spots Harmony and Pilgrim with you, this suspicion seems to grow as the corners of his mouth furrow downward in a very slight frown.
I bow toward him
Okay, at
as a
this
sign of gesture.
at this he seems a bit surprised and with an unexpected sense of humility. He actually gives you a pretty respectful bow at that point. At this, he turns and quickly begins walking towards the stairs that you're all heading towards currently as well. As he's moving, he begins speaking apparently to himself in a language that none of you understand, but as he's doing so, he's waving a finger in the air as though emphasizing everything that he's saying to some kind of assistant. He's also speaking with, although an unknown dialect, with the kind of cadence and inflection that would lend one to believe that he's irritated or annoyed, and that whoever he's speaking to should be more adept at perhaps taking notes or engaging in the conversation with him, because his impatience seems to be growing moment by moment. As he walks up to your group, Pilgrim holds a hand out and actually stops the group from walking forward, kind of looking as though, again, she's looking around at some of the sights. He very briskly strides past you guys at an ever increasing speed, and he quickly goes past the path that you were all headed on and heads down the stairs. As he does so, you hear the latch of some great heavy wooden door reinforced with metal swing open and then slam down as the door is closed heavily. Harmony looks over at your group and has a wry smile on her face. She says, he is not someone whom is to be trusted here. She says, that man would slit his own mother's throat for an extra piece of copper for, and she puts up quotation marks with her fingers, the gods. At this, Pilgrim just has a really brief little snort of laughter that, although it on any normal human it would sound more piggish than flattering to her, it comes out like a cacophony of light bells, and it actually makes goosebumps stand up on the back of your neck as you hear it, because it just triggers something in you that's very, very primal. And again, it shows the influence that she seems to have on the physiology of living things, even without trying to. Okay. Harmony says that is Inquisitor Albert Snaggletongue. She says nobody is sure when he showed up here, but he seems to be exerting more and more authority and power within the hierarchy. She says, I worry that he is a bad influence on the better forces that run this temple. And at this, she shrugs kind of lightly and says, but so is the state of all organizations on Rift's Earth. And she turns and begins slowly walking towards the door leading down the stairs, obviously trying to give a little bit more space between you and Snaggletongue. All right, as you guys approach the door, is there anything anybody's wanting to do before you head downstairs?
Did you? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. Mine was
Yeah,
just a
Go
question.
ahead,
You go.
Kilo.
Oh, I said I've got nothing. I said I've got nothing. I'm gonna
I go ahead and look around and pull out my camera and take some snapshots
All right.
in a not noticing way.
Okay. All right, you're able to do that. Nobody gives you any kind of problem. There's really nobody else in here. There was a pilgrim or two when you first walked in, and they've already left. So yeah, you take some really nice shots. You can mark down shots of cathedral interior, and you notice that the pictures that are up on the far wall, a lot of them to you look more like warriors. A lot of them are clad in armor. They're heavily built, wielding terrifying weapons. And a lot of the pictures, they actually seem to be of warriors posed after a very bloody victory. You notice that even though some of them don't look like they're in the middle of battle, they have the telltale signs of burns and blood and viscera all over their armor. This just kind of doesn't quite seem in place. You would assume from the crucifix and the other iconography, you would expect this to be like a Christian church. But it's obviously dedicated to something more militaristic or warlike than the principles of that you've heard of anyway. Okay, so you do get some images of that, and it makes you kind of want to go over those later on and just kind of consider this a bit more.
Excellent.
Um, all right, anybody else?
Yeah, I just wanted Ymir to ask, first of all, Ymir understood what Harmony said about Snaggletongue, correct? I know
Yes,
I'm sorry of asking, but we have to because of the language barrier. Okay,
absolutely.
if Ymir understood, then Ymir is just gonna kind of grumble underneath his breath and walk over to Harmony and whisper, "We have snakes like that in the politics of my homeland. I know the type," and just sort of puts it aside and continues along with the group.
Can't help it though. His name's Snaggletongue. He's got to be a dick.
Right? No, yeah.
It was
I mean, some people
fate.
are just born like that.
Yeah, they made fun of him back in the day, calling him
Yeah, they turned him
Snaggletooth.
into that because of his name. You guys gave him so much shit.
I'll show them.
All
Wait
right,
till I'm
so
Inquisitor.
all right, so you say that to her, and she just nods again with a kind of wry smile, a knowing smile, and you can tell that everybody's picking up the same kind of vibe from this guy. Um, as
Wiry politician
right
wields his power, but wiry. Yeah.
now, as the door opens and you guys head downstairs, you notice that there are some really interesting kind of architectural design elements of this building. You see that there's natural light being filtered in through sun shafts in several different locations, and it appears as though the lower levels of this place is actually where most of the um, architectural brilliance and design actually went. Um, as you head down to the next kind of landing, you guys come to an area that's fairly opulent. It's got some really fine rugs splayed out. It's got some what look to be kind of relics. You do notice that uh, this area appears in some disarray, as if there was maybe some kind of commotion here recently, but you're not seeing any real telltale signs of a fight or any kind of like battle damage. It looks more like maybe somebody threw a fit, or um, there was maybe some kind of accident rather than a fight. Um, you guys see that a lot of the religious aspect that you witnessed outside and in the chapel interior seems to be dissipating, and now you're seeing more um, kind of esoteric symbols and more kind of non-traditional religious iconography around you. And this is a bit puzzling. You're kind of wondering why there's such a mishmash and hodgepodge of different religions being represented, and now it seems to be taking an even stranger turn. Um, as you guys emerge into this room, you see that there are two large doorways. One seems to lead into what appears to be perhaps some kind of bedroom or some kind of craft room from your vantage point, and the other is an open doorway that actually leads down another set of stairs. Um, at this, Harmony looks at the group, and then she looks at Pilgrim. Pilgrim nods to Harmony for a moment, and Harmony says, "Okay, guys, we're going to take a quick detour." She turns towards the open doorway that seems to lead towards what appears to be like a craft room or bedroom, and she starts walking you guys through that. As you guys emerge into the next room, you see that it's kind of a combination of the two. There's a small child sitting on some beautiful tapestries on the ground that appear handmade. Um, the child is kind of it's you can't quite tell if it's a very feminine looking boy or a handsome looking young girl. But either way, it has kind of androgynous features that it lends it just a bit of an unearthly kind of look, an almost too perfect kind of facial structure. You would guess that the child is probably only 12 to 14 years old if it is indeed human. And the child sits just working on some very simple crafts, weaving together some flowers on some twine to make apparently some kind of necklace. In front and around the child are lots of different items for crocheting and weaving and using the loom that's obviously in front of her. And you see that on the back wall there are many more examples of the fine work that apparently this child has crafted, or perhaps her caretaker did. You're not sure. This room is very interesting because there is natural plant life, as well as what appears to be a large section of tree that is growing through the actual structure itself. And in the back of the room, there's a bright blue glow coming from some kind of portal-like window that you would almost expect to see like on a seafaring vessel of some enormous size. Something designed to give a whole room full of people a view from maybe under the waterline at all of the majestic creatures swimming by. But here on the other side of this portal-like window, you see that there's some kind of swirling vortex of blue energy, arcing, flaring, almost fiery energy, swirling like a tornado, going from bottom to top through the vantage point of the window. It doesn't really seem to subside, slow, or change much in the few seconds that each of you spend looking. And as your attention returns back to the girl, you see that she looks up at you, and as she does, she appears to get a very frightened look on her face. She actually looks quite terrified and begins to start backing away rapidly until she hears a voice from off to the right of her, or I'm sorry, off to the right of your guys' viewpoint, from around a corner say, "Be easy, child, easy." And from out of view steps Babatuk. Now, as Babatuk comes around the corner, you see that his eyes are indeed glowing that same kind of purplish pink, with some kind of almost necromantic energy. And as he does this, you see that the child's eyes just very lightly glaze over the same shade. And after just a moment, like a reflection at sunset, in the last dying light of the day, it's there for just a split second and then gone. But as that gleam comes over the child's eyes, it appears to relax considerably, and stop its backward motion. It very quickly sits up cross-legged, but with a rigid posture, and looks directly at him, and just kind of nods once. He looks over and points very slowly to you, Ymir. And as he does, her gaze follows his outstretched hand and his fingers, and she looks over in your direction for the first time and really sees your face. As she does, her eyes get quite a bit more round and orb-like, and you see that same gleam that she had a moment ago return, but begin to flare very brightly. You see this flare for just a second or two, and then you see her seem to relax. And as she does so, she slowly stands up and walks over in front of you. Is there anything you'd like to do?
As soon as Babatuk would enter the room, Ymir's gaze would instantly be locked with his. His eyes would narrow and follow him because he doesn't trust this creature that belongs to the Black Souls and their organization or anything.
How close are we to them two, by the way? Sorry to interrupt. Like, how far are we, all of us?
You're probably about 15, 20 feet.
Sorry, continue, Barry, on my bad.
Oh, no worries, man.
If he closed the gap this 15 or 20 feet to get to me.
She's just starting to walk towards you.
Oh, okay. Well, Ymir, go ahead.
I was just gonna whisper to my two companions, like, I don't trust this one. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
As the child, I'll put that in quotes, okay, air quotes. I know y'all can't see it, but you can see it. As the child approaches Ymir, he's tensed up now because of obviously who this thing's apparent puppeteer is, puppet master is. And so he tenses up and kind of takes a step back when she approaches him, like, what the fuck is this on about? Like, originally when he first saw her,
okay,
it
as
was
you
almost
do this, Pilgrim reaches out for the first time, lightning fast, like some kind of great apex predator kind of jungle cat. Her arm reaches out like a bolt of lightning and instantly grips your massive wrist. She's standing to your right, and so she grabs your right hand wrist. And as soon as she does, your massive 12-foot, superhumanly strong, durable frame actually feels enough pressure to make you wince for a moment, and you are completely blown away that this frail little creature has the level of strength that it would take to make something like you feel uncomfortable, even if it seemed to be exerting itself tremendously. She does it with a casual grace that you just absolutely can't believe it. As she reaches out and grabs your wrist, you feel a surge of some kind of electricity arcing up through your arm and seeming to light a fire in your chest. As you feel this, you look down at her, and her face is looking up at you with earnest, desperate pleading. And she appears to be beseeching you to let the child approach and let this happen. Okay? As you see this, the child continues stepping forward. What do you do?
You cut out at earnest and desperate, Odin. I didn't hear the latter half of that.
She just essentially seems to be pleading with you to let the child approach and let the child do what it's intending to do.
Okay. Well, shocked and sort of rocked by this revelation that just happened, Ymir submits to it as to not upset this mighty being that's got a grip of him. He knows when he's beat, and this is one clearly time where he's not going to be able to outmuscle the situation. So knowing this, Ymir just sort of accepts it because okay.
All right, and as you do so, she kind of catches herself and comes back to herself, and with an exaggerated motion, she completely opens her hand wide, and seems to almost nod in begging your pardon that she reacted thusly. And she kind of swings her head back downward a bit and just begins watching the child approach. Okay, the child is stepping closer. Babatuk is still just standing there right where he first emerged and watching her. She's about 5 feet away. At this point, is anybody doing anything? Harmony has actually stepped back and is towards the entrance to the room now, appearing to not want to be close or interact with whatever's happening here. And Pilgrim is also starting to take a few steps back.
Can I, without causing any worry or making anyone cautious of what I'm doing, I don't know if there's like components or gestures or spoken things I have to do, but can I try to, without being seen, cast sense magic through my visor, my mask, just to kind of get a read on the people of this room, as far as I want to see if there's any magic emitting from this girl.
Okay, so you begin casting sense magic, and as you're beginning to form the magical patterns in your mind that'll lay the groundwork for the spellcraft that will build the spell, right away you hear a bark come from Pilgrim, and it's a low guttural thing, primal, and from her belly. The bark itself sounds like some kind of inhuman living glass being shattered and it echoing on for eternity but being compressed into a short sound. This has an effect on you that completely destroys the framework of spell that you're building and causes you to actually gasp as you feel that for just a second you believe this was achieved by stopping your heart. You can feel yourself reach up and clutch your chest as this sensation washes over you, and you see as you look up at her in shock that she's just shaking her head in a very knowing way. It appears as though she's trying to help you, but you're horrified at how just this simple act was able to nearly kill you. Okay?
Whisper as I look at her in shock, maybe a little bit of warning next time instead of something like this.
And she nods to you, but obviously is distracted with what seems about to happen.
Yeah, I will turn and focus back on what is happening as well.
Okay, as you turn and focus, want to open it up. Anybody else doing anything at all?
I take a step back to let the kid walk by, and then I lock
obviously the
eyes
kid's walking
with
by you today.
Babatuk and do kind of like a half bow, so to say.
Okay. All right. You start stepping over towards Babatuk and show this very quick sign of respect. He nods very deeply towards you in a sidewards gesture, which you know for many mages of, non-human origin. This is a very common, almost megaversal sign of deference and the portrayal of somebody being one's equal, which for many mages and supernatural beings, you don't see that very often. So it's definitely a pretty big acknowledgement that this individual respects your Atlantean heritage and you yourself as a warrior and as a ambassador of essentially good, as your people are known throughout the multiverse. So, all right, and what is it that you were wanting to do, Ren? I thought you had said something right at the end there.
Oh, I noticed this, and I don't like it. I don't have a good feeling about this guy, and I more don't have a good feeling about the multiple times the interest that Akama has shown towards this individual. Once at the beginning of the camp, and then again with the bow. I'm just kind of a little sneer under my mask, being like, I don't know why he's so interested in this individual that
Okay.
I don't seem to get a good read on. At least I that's just what I get from it.
Okay, and you see Baba Took look over in your direction, and he just kind of squints his eyes a little bit and seems to be kind of sizing you up as this last uh, few seconds tick by before contact is made. At this, you all hear a tremendous, thunderous roar come from outside of the cathedral. You all instantly recognize that it's Wotek, but you can all tell that this roar is not one of pain, it is one of rage. Okay? The walls shake and dust begins drifting down from the ceiling as the sound of this cacophony echoes down through the actual foundation of this structure. You hear a tremendous thudding of a great and powerful weight being slammed against what sounds like the front doors of the cathedral. But the doors appear to be holding fast as no telltale tones of splintering wood or displaced and distended metal seem to be available in that symphony of destructive colossus impact. You guys each look around at each other shocked. This is none of you expected there to be a problem, and indeed, you don't even think that he's being attacked. It sounds like he's trying to break his way in here because he's angry about something. In this, Harmony right away looks very concerned and yells towards Pilgrim in a kind of raspy, half whispering voice, "Are you sure about this?" Pilgrim very calmly turns her head and looks at Harmony and nods very, very serenely, completely sure of herself. She turns back towards you, Ymir, and she nods, and in a harmonic, soothing tone reminiscent of a waterfall, her voice rolls out and says to you, "Have faith. You must know the truth." And with this, she just bows her head slightly to you in encouragement. What do you all do?
I'm just waiting to see what's gonna fucking happen because it's this short period of time. It's been intense. I'm just gonna let it happen. What happens?
Do her words have a physical effect on Ymir? Like, does he go from battle tensed up in pain, sort of?
No, you feel as though the choice is completely your own.
Okay. Well, given the situation and mistrust that he has of the Black Souls, but understanding that obviously this is a revelation that he needs to find out, and his quest for knowledge, because a lot of his history is obscured either by his upbringing or what he was taught by certain clan elders as he grew into his role in Clan Direbear and was blessed as the Bjorn kid like his ancestors. So, um, taking the feeling the waterfall effect, not you're not necessarily feeling the mood, but her words make Ymir feel like he needs to know whatever this is, and not saying that he trusts the Black Soul because he doesn't, but this powerful being is offering him a revelation that supposedly he needs to see, and for his journey to continue, he wants to find out what this supposed truth is.
Okay. All right. Ren and Akama, are you guys doing anything right now? You said, Ren, that you're just going to go ahead and let this play out?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm just like, whatever's gonna happen needs to happen because it's
Okay. And
I turn and I look at Ymir in shock, like, oh my, like what happened? You know, I jog toward him and look at him to see if he's okay, and I could see the disdain face features that he has about the situation, and I say, uh, is Wotek okay? I don't. I feel like I don't grasp the situation at the
okay.
time.
Okay. Um, she is just about upon you. Is there anything you want to say to him, Ymir?
Ymir looks at Akaba and understands his concern for the situation, and he just says very bluntly, "Calm him," and sort of turns and accepts whatever's about to, because the child is,
You said to me, calm him.
yes.
Okay. After he says that, I basically jet off to check on Wotek.
Okay. All right. You start dashing up the stairs. You're pretty much at the base of the stairs because this is all happening right at the last couple of steps. But you are heading up and picking up speed. You'll be there within just, what would be an attack or two. You do think that you're probably going to face locked, doors, sturdy doors. So you'll have to decide how to kind of deal with that if you want to let them in or what you want to do. At this point, she reaches out and is just about to make contact. I say I'm going to be using she and he interchangeably here because you guys, none of you really know kind of the gender of this child. Um, as the child reaches out with an open palm, she goes to try and you assume touch like your chest or your head, and she seems to want you to kind of kneel so that she can reach you. Do you want to do that, Ymir?
Already kneeling. Ymir hasn't changed position since he was wrenched down basically on one knee by Pilgrim. So he's in that same position.
Oh, okay. I didn't mean that she like manhandled you like that, just that she grabbed your wrist and kind of squoze
Oh,
it hard
okay. I
enough.
thought I
No,
thought
no,
she
she
like
was
put him in an
no,
all.
she wasn't trying
Yeah,
to
I
fuck with
thought
you.
she fucking like twisted his arm and was like, "You're gonna
No, 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 no.
take this." Like,
No,
I think
she
okay,
he was saying that just the little action she did, you're surprised by how powerful it was.
right,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
right,
Like
okay.
she didn't she
Then
didn't like
then
completely.
given that, yes, Ymir kind of kneels down so this being, whatever it is, with the face of a child, can reach out and touch his chest or his
Okay.
forehead.
Reach out, touch me.
All right, so you kneel, and the child actually reaches out and places her hand squarely on your chest. Um, as she does so, you feel a kind of numbness starting to spread over your body, and you realize after just a second or two that it's some kind of it's a sensation of cold like you've never felt before. It's a kind of cold that doesn't seem to uh, come from the external environment. It's a lack of something in yourself, a hollowness in yourself that seems to be growing outwards from her touch. As you realize that this is happening, you hear another thundering roar from Wotek as he slams himself with all of his might against the front doors, rattling them in their frame. But again, they once again resist the titanic force. More dust and debris fall from the ceiling, and the child seems completely unaffected, as though in some kind of trance. The child's eyes are closing slowly as this sensation is spreading from your chest out into your shoulders and your hips, down to your knees and your elbows and slowly out across your limbs and extremities and over your head. As you feel the last bit of yourself consumed by this, you then feel something that is immeasurably worse, something terrible within you, some kind of spark of fire. And with that, you, Ren, and you, Akama, see Ymir appear to start to shudder, and as the child steps back with her eyes closed, Ymir actually falls to his hands and knees and is doubled over. His head is hung directly down towards the ground, and you can see that from his massive frame, there appears to be some kind of smoldering, smoking mist starting to emanate from him, and you guys can actually feel a low kind of heat beginning to emanate from his form. At this, we're right at 1 hour, so we're going to take our first break, and we're going to transition over to this next area in just a moment. We've got to kind of do a little setup here. So let's take a quick 5 minutes, and when we come back, we're going to get to it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, guys, I'll be right back.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.